What's up, YouTube? This is Boston X79. May the 4th be with us all. That's right, today is Star Wars Day, and in celebration of one of the greatest franchises of all time, the Force has guided me to bring you a pure version of the Cosmo deck. That's right, we're not running anything like Metal Foes or Fire Kings in this deck. This is going to be straight up Cosmos. The deck is just amazing, has some pretty interesting tech options in this deck that can really put the Force chokehold on your opponent and, in my opinion, help this deck hit what it needs to hit its win condition, which is basically the OTK. The deck is still amazingly fun, it's consistent, and I can tell you right now, you're going to enjoy playing with both sides of the Force in this deck. So let's jump right into this. Starting off with the engine of the Cosmo pilots, Cosmo Tin Can. This version of R2-D2, still like the OG version, is a complete and total badass. During an end phase, you pay 500 life points and you're able to select up to 3 Cosmo cards. Your opponent chooses one of them at random, adds it to your hand, the other 2 are sent to the graveyard. Don't have to worry about losing those cards to the graveyard because it's easy to get those cards back onto the field with the other cards in our deck. And just like all the other Cosmo Psychic type monsters, the AK pilots, while they're on the field during either player's turn, you can bounce them off the field and special summon a Cosmo monster of a higher level from your hand to the field. Is just an amazing archetype and what they do, and it's definitely worth running at 3. One copy of Cosmo Strawman. This version is C-3PO. Can return any of your banished Cosmo monsters back to the field. Their effects are negated and they're destroyed during the end phase. So you want to be really bringing back your ships more often than your other pilots, primarily because you could actually benefit off of the ship's destruction effects. But still, great card. You don't really want to be running more than one copy in a more pure version of the build, primarily because there's a lot of different ways to actually get this guy back onto your field. So, one copy of Cosmo Farm Girl. This is the Luke Skywalker of the deck. And we're loving her because whenever she does damage to your opponent, you're searching your deck for another Cosmo card to add to your hand. She just adds to the ongoing Cosmo OTK engine. One's really all that you need in this deck, but still, definitely worth running her. Coming in, we have Cosmo Sword Troopers. We're in the dark side now, and the dark side is giving us the Stormtroopers that can actually hit their target. By paying 1,000 life points, you're getting a Cosmo Psychic type monster back onto your field. From there, you could actually just bounce the cards off the field for more ships, or you could go into other plays depending on the levels of your monsters. So definitely worth having in this deck. And of course, we have Cosmo Wicked Witch. She is the gender-bent version of Darth Maul, and just like Darth Maul, she is too angry to die. Pay 1,000 life points, she can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. She's a very amazing wall to have in this deck, and can slow down your opponent's aggressions to a T. So definitely worth having in your deck. And last but not least, we have, for the pilots at least, 2 copies of Cosmo Dark Lady. She is the gender-bent version of Darth Lady, and just like Darth Vader, such an epic villain. She is a walking solemn strike, paying 1,000 life points to negate one of your opponent's monster's effects. Just such a nasty card to have in this deck, and love her so much, that's why we want her too. Okay, on to the ships. 3 copies of Cosmo Slipwriter. Allows you to target any spell and trap card on the field, destroy it, which is insanely important because you can clear out your opponent's back row as well as take off unneeded cards from your side of the field, so you can make room to play more cards, which is very awesome. Like I said before, all Cosmo ships have the same destruction ability. When they're destroyed by battle or card effect, sent to the graveyard, you banish them, and you special summon a lower level Cosmo monster from your deck onto your field. So, very awesome. Because back row has started to become a little bit more relevant due to things like Eldritch, you want to be running this card. 2 copies of Cosmo Forerunner. This is one of the bigger ships that cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Very useful and handy during your standby phases. You gain 1,000 life points. If you haven't noticed, the Cosmo pilots all require life points to utilize their effects, so this guy in your deck to replenish your life points, very well needed, and it's definitely something that you have to be running. The other ship you want to be running at 3 is one of the 3 copies of Cosmo Dark Destroyer. On summon, pops one of your opponent's monsters. Again, one of the bigger ships, so it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Just amazing. And I can tell you right now, 3k attack, always good to have around. And the last ship we're running is 1 copy of Cosmo Dark Eclipser. Its on-field effect allows you to banish a Cosmo monster from your graveyard to negate the activation of one of your opponent's traps. So it's definitely something else that you want to have on the field to really help against particular matchups that are a little bit more back row driven. So definitely a card you need. Another 3k body, and unlike the other ships, when it's destroyed by battle and you banish it, you're not special summoning into the field, you're actually searching. So, but still, a worthwhile card to have. And the last monster in this deck, and this is a tech option that I'm running, 1 copy of Dragon Buster Destruction Story. Yes, this is what applies the Force Chokehold on your opponent. By equipping this card to any of your Dark Attribute monsters, you power up by 1,000 attack, and then your opponent cannot be special summoning from the extra deck, and that can basically just hurt. Such an amazing card. Definitely worth running in this deck, and you see why. 2 copies of Demise of Land, because you want to be accessing your field spell as fast as possible. This allows you to put your field spell on the field when your opponent special summons, so always good card. 1 copy of Emergency Teleport. All of the pilot monsters are Psychic type, so it gets you out your low level Psychic type monsters, whether it be Sword Troopers, Farm Girl, Stormmen, or any of the Tin Cans. 3 copies of Cosmo Town. This is pretty much mandatory in all Cosmo decks. It can unbreak your hand by allowing you to shuffle back unneeded Cosmo monsters back into your deck to draw the same number of cards. If it's ever destroyed, you're searching your deck for another Cosmo card except for itself to add to your hand. And the most important effect, you could pay life points equal to a banished Cosmo monster's level, times 100, add it back to your hand, and you're able to go from there. So it's a very amazing utilitarian card. It needs to be in every Cosmo deck, and that's why we're running a lot of different ways to get into that card. 1 copy of Monster Number 1, just a great toolbox card to have in any deck, able to grab any monsters from your opponent's or your own graveyard, add it to your field. 1 copy of Monster Reborn. This is an amazing tech option in any Cosmo build, primarily because you could select up to 3 Cosmo monsters from your graveyard. Your opponent chooses one of them, adds it to your hand. The other 2 are banished, but since the way this deck functions, it's pretty easy to get back those banished cards, so definitely a card to have in this deck. 1 copy of Mystic Mine. Hey, this is an amazing field spell that can really just jam your opponent, prevent your opponent from attacking or activating monster effects. And with the different ways to getting field spells out of the deck, it's just a great idea to run 1 copy of this in this deck, just to be able to allow you to get your breather and build your field. 3 copies of Pilot's Dragons. Cosmo decks in general don't typically rely heavily on the extra deck. Although if you've seen some of my other videos in the past, you know very well that I don't like useless cards in my extra deck, so definitely it's one of those white side, dark side style effects, but still it does give you extra pluses, so definitely worth running in this deck anyway, because it doesn't impede on your ability to special summon like Power of Duality would. 1 copy of Terraforming again to see your field spell. 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. This deck doesn't care about giving your opponent life points. It just gets you an additional card. 2 copies of Call of the Haunted. Allows you to get your monsters onto the field in defense position, which is just awesome. Metaverse, again, to see your field spells. Cosmojo, this is a very important card to be running in your Cosmo deck, especially nowadays, primarily because you can destroy one of your Cosmo monsters on the field and then target any card in your opponent's field or graveyard and banish it. Playing against Eldritch, this is such an amazing card. You can just get rid of the Golden Lord out of their graveyard or off their field, and it just hurts that deck so badly. So definitely a 3-off in any Cosmo decks. And I'm also running one copy of Cosmorting. The primary reason is because whenever one of your Cosmo monsters destroys one of your opponent's monsters, that monster is then shuffled back into the deck, it doesn't go to the graveyard. And I can tell you right now, that can actually cause a lot of different problems, because as your opponent uses up resources to get their materials out of the deck, it puts real pressure on their resource management, and this is definitely an amazing card to have. Also has an amazing in-graveyard effect. You can banish it, and the first time you would take damage from a attack, you don't. Instead, you gain the life points that you would have taken as damage instead. So definitely a way to replenish your life points as well. That's it for the main deck, extra deck. Like I said before, I don't like useless cards in the extra deck, but in case you can go into it, Levier, the Sea Dragon, very great tech option. Allows you to special summon any banished monster from banished zone onto the field. So a worthwhile option to have in this deck. Of course, level 5 Subriders means you have to run the Cyber Dragon Infinity package for extra negation stealing your opponent's monsters. 2 Forerunners allow you to go into Big Eye, stealing your opponent's monsters. Again, taking that Eldritch Golden Lord off the field can be very useful. Some rank 8 plays. Hope Harbinger Titanic Galaxy negates the activation of spell cards, as overlay units can redirect attacks to itself by detaching materials, so definitely a worthwhile card. Of course, we have Dingir, so you can just send a problematic card right off your opponent's field, and even protect other monsters on the field from being destroyed, so definitely worthwhile card. For the links, we have a lot of level 1s, and they're easy to get back on the field repeatedly, so Link Karibo is a natural choice. It can tribute itself off, bottom out one of your opponent's attacks, which very useful. And not only that, but you can keep bringing yourself back by tributing off any level of monsters. So definitely a one-off. To help with the Buster Sword effects, Union Carrier allows you to get Buster Sword equipped onto one of your Dark Retribution monsters. Typically, I like to equip it onto Dark Lady to bring it up to 3200. You have that the monster effect negation effect onto it, so yes, definitely worth having in this deck. 2 copies of IP Masquerena. Sea Shut's an amazing generic card, able to go into any of the links and make them indestructible by card effects. So very awesome. And she's actually a pretty good fit, and you can actually go into cards like Nightmare Unicorn and Phoenix to spin cards off the deck back into the field, into your opponent's deck, go off the back row. And of course, to help with back row removal, on a bigger scale, you have Topological Trisbadia. Very useful. Or you can run Topological Bomber Dragon to nuke the field if your opponent's running more of a combo monster effect heavy deck. And then last but not least, to help take advantage of all the stuff you're banishing, Topological Boros, just an amazing card, can banish a lot of different things, can lock your opponent out of their extra monster zones. Not that important when facing off against synchro decks, but if you're facing off against a Link deck, yeah, it just locks out the extra monster zones. And it is a Dark Attribute monster, so equipping it to Buster Dragon, yeah. The 4,000 plus the whatever is banish, you get die there, it's going to be huge. Guys, that is it for my Cosmo deck profile for May 2020. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe, enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Guys, check out the description box below. Support the other sites that I'm affiliated with, SideDeckVersus.com. Amazing resources to help you build your side decks against the meta. They give you amazing card choices for each deck matchup, and just being able to take a look at what cards can hit across multiple decks. This is a resource that you need to have saved in your bookmarks, especially if you're preparing to go for tournaments. Check them out. Links in the description box below. If you want to help support the channel, I am affiliated with TCGplayer.com. Use the affiliate link when shopping on TCG Player. As always, follow me on social media, Reddit, and Twitter. And if you want to become part of the community, I have the invite link to my Discord. Join the conversation. We'd love to have you. So guys, until next time, may the force be with you.